Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. In the universe, the stars glitter with the potential for discovery, conquest, and the promise of new horizons. Over countless millennia, civilizations rose and fell, some flourishing into mighty empires while others were consigned to the dustbin of history, forgotten as little more than whispers in the cosmic winds. Among these countless empires, one stood at the top, not by the sheer might of its fleets, nor through the sophisticated designs of its warships, but by the resilience and unparalleled strength of its people. These people were known as Deathworlders. To most of the galaxy, the term Deathworlder was a curious one, defined as a species originating from a planet whose environment was hostile to life. A Deathworlder was born and raised on a world that had extreme conditions, with everything around them either trying to kill them or requiring them to evolve in extraordinary ways just to survive. Life on a death world was an endless battle against nature itself: poisonous plants, dangerous animals, extreme temperatures, violent storms, and unpredictable weather patterns. But out of these brutal environments, the Deathworlders had emerged, not only as survivors, but as the apex predators of their worlds, each one a hardened, battle-tested warrior capable of surviving things that no other species could. However, to truly understand why going to war with Deathworlders was a bad idea, one had to first understand the essence of what made them different from other species in the galaxy. While many species across the universe had advanced technology, superior intellects, and powerful fleets, none had the same unshakable tenacity and survival instinct that Deathworlders carried with them as second nature. It wasn't simply their advanced weapons or their strategies that made them formidable in combat, it was their unyielding nature, their refusal to give up, no matter the odds. A Deathworlder was capable of pushing past their limits in a way that no other species could even fathom, making them not just soldiers, but forces of nature. It was not unheard of for civilizations to come across Deathworlders and make the mistake of underestimating them. In the galaxy, some species believed that sheer numbers or firepower would be enough to crush them, that the Deathworlders were primitive, savage, and easy to outmaneuver. These species soon learned, to their horror, that they had made a grievous error. The Deathworlders, with their boundless determination, had an uncanny ability to turn the tables on their enemies. And in a galaxy full of powerful and ancient species, none had ever been more ill-prepared to face an enemy like the Deathworlders. At the core of this was the simple fact that Deathworlders were born into a universe where survival was not a guarantee, it was a constant struggle. A Deathworlder's very biology was attuned to this struggle, their minds and bodies conditioned by eons of living in an environment that demanded the highest levels of resilience. They had learned to survive against overwhelming odds, and in turn, they became the greatest warriors the galaxy would ever know. Every aspect of their physiology was honed for survival, from their strength, agility, and reflexes to their incredible healing abilities and superior senses. Everything about them was designed to thrive in the face of danger. They didn't just survive their planets, they dominated them. Many of the galaxy's less intelligent species, the ones who had never been tested in such hostile environments, looked upon the Deathworlders with an air of superiority. These species had evolved in lush, temperate environments where survival was never in doubt. Their worlds were hospitable and their needs easily met, leaving them with the luxury of peace and leisure. They were not used to the constant threat of predation or the ruthless forces of nature that Deathworlders had grown accustomed to. It was easy for these species to assume that they were the superior ones, that their high-tech cities, massive fleets, and advanced weaponry made them untouchable. But these species had never fought the kind of battle that Deathworlders fought every single day of their lives against an unforgiving planet that wanted them dead. The first mistake these species made was assuming that their advanced technology would give them the upper hand. To them, it seemed logical. A fleet of highly advanced warships, armed with weapons capable of reducing entire cities to ashes, should easily defeat a species that had never been able to create ships of similar complexity. They sent out invitations to war, planning their attacks against Death World colonies, confident in their technological superiority. But the Death Worlders had a secret weapon: their adaptability. When the Death Worlders encountered new technologies, they didn't flinch or retreat. They adapted, learned, and evolved. Their minds were wired to think creatively, to make use of every available resource, and to find ways to outsmart and outmaneuver their enemies. In combat, the Death Worlders were like nothing any of these advanced civilizations had ever faced. They were not reliant on the technology around them. They didn't need it to fight. They fought with their bodies, their instincts, their sheer will to survive. In the chaos of battle, while their enemies relied on their computers, their guns, and their ships, the Death Worlders fought as though the very essence of their survival depended on it, because it did. This fierce, unrelenting will to live and to protect their people was what made them so incredibly dangerous. When you fought a Death Worlder, you weren't just fighting for victory, you were fighting for your life. The second mistake made by the galaxy's would-be conquerors was underestimating the sheer physical prowess of the Death Worlders. These were beings who had been shaped by forces of nature that could kill them at any moment. They were faster, stronger, and tougher than any species that lived on temperate or peaceful worlds. Their bones were denser, their muscles more resilient, and their reflexes sharper. They could survive injuries that would be fatal to most other species, and even when gravely wounded, they would continue fighting, often with a terrifying ferocity that made them seem unstoppable. In one infamous battle, a fleet of technologically superior aliens attempted to invade a Death World colony. They believed that their sheer numbers and weaponry would overpower the Death Worlders, who had never faced a fleet of this size before. The aliens bombarded the planet with orbital strikes, hoping to soften the Death Worlders' resistance before landing their forces. But the Death Worlders, far from succumbing to fear, adapted to the new threat in record time. They didn't cower in their shelters or hide from the attacks. Instead, they used their planet's terrain to their advantage, moving through forests, mountains, and caves with an ease that the invaders could not replicate. They learned to track the invading forces, to sabotage their supply lines, and to turn the environment itself into a weapon. The invaders soon found themselves bogged down in a fight they were not prepared for, facing enemies who had been trained by nature itself to survive and overcome. The battle became a nightmare for the invading forces. Their technology, so advanced in their own territory, proved useless against the Death Worlders' ingenuity and tenacity. The Death Worlders fought with a brutal effectiveness that left the invaders reeling. Their soldiers, who had thought themselves unbeatable, were forced to retreat, leaving behind not only the wreckage of their ships but also the broken pride of their entire fleet. The Death Worlders had won, not through superior technology, but through their ability to survive, to adapt, and to endure. This was the third and most dangerous aspect of going to war with Death Worlders: their unwavering persistence. Death Worlders didn't know how to quit. They didn't understand the concept of surrender or defeat. When pushed to the brink, they didn't panic or retreat. They fought harder, they adapted faster, and they pushed back. This relentless determination, combined with their natural ability to survive and their tactical brilliance, made them an incredibly difficult enemy to break. To fight a Death Worlder was to fight a battle that never truly ended until one side had been utterly destroyed. And even then, it was never certain if that side was truly defeated or if they would return, stronger and more determined than ever. The galaxy quickly learned that going to war with Death Worlders was a mistake, a costly mistake that often ended with the invaders fleeing, defeated, and broken. What they didn't realize was that this wasn't a mistake that could be corrected or fixed. Once a Death Worlder had been pushed too far, once their loved ones and their home were threatened, there was no mercy. No negotiations. No treaties. It was total war. When an entire species fought as if it was their last battle, with everything they had and everything they were, there was simply no way to stop them. The Death Worlders didn't fight for glory or conquest. They fought for survival. And when the stakes were that high, there was no greater motivator than the instinct to live. And so, in the end, the galaxy learned to leave the Deathworlders alone. The legends of their warriors spread far and wide, and though many civilizations still whispered about them, there was a growing understanding: if you wanted to live in peace, you would let the Deathworlders be. Because, in the end, going to war with them was not just a bad idea, it was a death sentence.